was, in fact, yeah.
Really? He touched you a lot in the audition?
Yeah.
You serious?
No, I swear.
Don't have any idea why he was screaming at me the way he did on the very first day, but and I was so shell-shocked. All I could do was feel, terrible shame and embarrassment. And then I saw that he would pick somebody else and do it to them, and I would watch this. And after one of these incidents, I said, I can't wait till you do that to me again, because now I know how to react to it. And he said, well, I haven't had to, because you've behaved yourself.
Bill Murray's been sitting on the Hollywood throne for decades, but the empire he's built, it's crumbling and ugly. From creeping out women on nearly every set, to straight up going after young child stars and throwing wild tantrums, this man isn't just your typical grumpy old dude. Bill Murray's become a real danger. I'm honestly mad about this because, like a lot of people, I really thought Bill was one of the rare good ones. But once I dug into his dark past, my whole view flipped. It's exhausting how every big Hollywood name seems to turn out creepy. And yep, Bill's no exception. You've probably seen him in hits like Ghostbusters and Groundhog Day, or maybe Caddyshack. He even starred in Lost in Translation. This guy's been cashing Hollywood checks for decades, which sadly gave him way too many chances to pull off shady, straight-up disturbing stunts. Now, I knew Bill Murray, the actor, but I had no clue about the mess in his past. So I started digging into the endless list of wild stories and nasty allegations. And one question kept popping up. How did this man keep getting work? Like seriously, even after people started calling him out for creepy, messed up behavior. For example, remember when he grabbed and forcibly kissed Naomi Watts in front of everyone? Yeah, that nightmare went down on live TV. Bill was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, and Naomi, who acted alongside him in their new movie, The Friend, was there too. At one point, someone asked Naomi about her best on-screen kiss, and out of nowhere, Bill grabbed her face and planted one on her without consent. It was awkward, humiliating, and honestly, horrifying. Wait, what? Naomi was clearly shook. She froze, face in her hands, shaking her head like she couldn't even process what just happened. Sure, Bill and Naomi had worked together before. They starred in St. Vincent back in 2014. But come on, Bill. Who do you think you are, grabbing a 56-year-old married woman like that? At first, I thought, okay, maybe he meant it like some little grandpa kiss. Still wrong, but maybe just a harmless peck? Nope. Look at the footage. Bill went all in. And yeah, Naomi looks incredible for her age. But Bill, he's fully in grandpa territory. Like, sit down, Grandpa. Help yourself before you embarrass yourself. Honestly, Naomi handled it like a pro. Way better than most would've. If it were me, I'd have stormed off set ASAP. But you already know. If she'd done that, the public would have labeled her the difficult one, or even worse, they'd throw out that B word. Typical double standards. But guess what? We're flipping the script today. We're labeling Bill with a big fat C and P, a creep and a perv. Naomi even tried to shut the whole thing down smoothly. When asked about her favorite on-screen kiss, she clapped back saying, "My husband, Billy." Like, a reminder to the whole room that she's happily married and not here for Bill's nonsense. Viewers weren't having it either. People flooded social media calling the moment horrifying and flat-out disrespectful. And when Bill called Naomi a little girl on top of it, that was just extra gross. Fans were heartbroken. I've been a Bill Murray fan forever, but this was hard to watch. Even Andy Cohen caught heat. Instead of shutting it down, he hyped it up, calling the moment so good. Probably because it was good for ratings. SMH. One viewer nailed it perfectly. How gross and horrifying. Andy saying, yes, so good, just awful. And honestly, couldn't agree more. Now, real quick, before we get deeper into Bill's messy past, let me drop some knowledge that might actually help you in real life. Honestly, if I were Andy in that moment, I don't even know what I would have done. But knowing myself, I probably would have jumped up like, wait! What just happened? I'd be shocked. But maybe Andy's just seen too much at this point. Dealing with all those wild housewives? Nothing surprises him anymore. But trust me, this wasn't some one-time slip-up for Bill. Nope! Back in 2022, he got himself in even more hot water. Serious misconduct allegations came out against him. And it got so bad, they actually shut down a whole film he was working on. Here's what went down. A female staff member from the set accused him of some straight-up disgusting behavior. And for some reason, Bill's out here acting like he's the victim. He even complained that he got barbecued over the whole thing. Bro. What? Turns out, he had to cough up around $100,000 in a settlement to the woman he wronged. And guess what he supposedly did? He allegedly kissed and straddled a much younger crew member while they were on set filming Being Mortal. Like, seriously? Bill tried to explain it away, saying he'd known the woman and thought the whole thing was some twisted attempt to make peace. And it gets weirder. He claimed he kissed her while both of them were wearing face masks. Masks! Apparently, it was during the COVID-19 protocols, but still, that's just straight up bizarre. So let me get this straight. You tried to make peace by grabbing and kissing your much younger coworker through a mask? That's your idea of fixing things, Bill? And when the backlash hit, he just kept whining, saying, I ended up being, to my mind, barbecued. Like, what even is that? Some old school saying? Shout out to everyone in their 70s, 80s, and 90s watching this. Maybe y'all can translate that for us because this man's making no sense.
I don't have any idea why he was screaming at me the way he did on the very first day, but and I was so shell-shocked. All I could do was feel, terrible shame and embarrassment. And then I saw that he would pick somebody else and do it to them and do it to them, and I would watch this. And after one of these incidents, I said, I can't wait till you do that to me again because now I know how to react to it. And he said, well, I haven't had to because you've behaved yourself.
What does Bill even mean by saying he was barbecued? Like, what? Anyway, Bill kept trying to explain away his bad behavior. He claimed the woman he kissed was someone he used to grab lunch with during the week. He kept repeating it was COVID times and that they were both wearing masks. Then he got all confusing, skipping over half his sentences. He said they were stranded in a room together, listening to a crazy scene, whatever that means. Bill admitted he didn't even know what made him pull the stunt. He said, "It's something I had done before, and I thought it was funny." What? Funny to who, Bill? He explained, "Every time it happened, it was funny. I was wearing a mask. I kissed her through the mask. It wasn't like I touched her. Like that makes it okay? Sir, no!" And he really tried to justify it by saying she wasn't a stranger, as if that makes it any less creepy. According to Bill, the whole film got shut down because Disney's Human Rights Department, HR, stepped in and pulled the plug. And instead of taking responsibility, he just called the entire situation stupid. Stupid? Bro, you had to pay this woman $100,000. Then, Bill tried to play it off, saying, "You can teach an old dog new tricks." But you could tell he was bitter. "It was a great disappointment," he said, "because I thought I knew someone and I did not." Oh, but trust me, that's just the recent stuff.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It was a lot like this, in fact, yeah.
Really? He touched you a lot in the audition?
Yeah.
You serious?
No, I swear.
Now let's rewind the clock all the way back to 1990. Actress Gina Davis, yeah, that Gina Davis, spilled some serious tea in her memoir, Dying of Politeness. She talked about working with Bill back in the 90s when she was about 34 and he was 40. Their first meeting? Total nightmare. It went down in a hotel room, and Gina said Bill showed up acting all creepy, waving around a massager, and refusing to take no for an answer. Ooh, that's just straight up weird and honestly, very Harvey Weinstein vibes. On set, Bill didn't stop there. He screamed at Gina for being late, even though she had a perfectly good reason, and then kept yelling in front of the whole crew just to humiliate and berate her. Wait, what? She was 34, he was 40. Barely any age gap. So who did he think he was, trying to act like her superior? Honestly, no surprise here. Bill Murray's been giving off major a-hole energy for years. And since we're already digging through his messy history, let me show y'all another wild and super inappropriate moment from back in the day. Yup, this one also happened on national TV. Uh-oh. At this point, he was just exposing himself as a total freak. I can't even imagine what it must have been like for people who had to work with him, especially when their whole livelihood depended on keeping him happy. Take Lucy Liu, for example. She finally broke her silence about her experience with Bill while filming Charlie's Angels in 2000. She first spoke out in 2021, 2 decades after the nightmare went down. Lucy said, "When I sense something's not right, I'm going to protect myself. It's innate. I would have done that in any situation. There's no need to consent or put others down." That alone says so much. There's even a news report out there breaking down some of the shocking allegations Lucy made against Bill. She described how he would yell random insults at her during filming. Lucy was so confused, she'd actually look around thinking, "There's no way he's talking to me." Right? But sadly, he was. Oh, and it doesn't stop there. Another actor, Seth Green, also came forward with his own horror story. He had a scary run-in with Bill Murray behind the scenes of Saturday Night Live when Seth was just 9 years old. So, Seth Green went on the Good Mythical Morning podcast and dropped a bombshell. He said that when he was just 9 years old, Bill, who was 31 at the time, made a huge scene just because Seth was sitting on the arm of a couch. You know, like literally every kid does. But instead of just telling him to stop, Bill allegedly grabbed Seth by his ankles, picked him up, and dangled him over a trash can. Seth was swinging his arms and screaming for help. Then it gets worse. Bill dropped him right into the trash can. The whole thing tipped over, and poor Seth was horrified. He ran off, hid under his dressing room table, and just broke down crying. Like, what? An actual monster. Can you imagine being a grown, rich, famous man and attacking a child because he sat on a couch? Who does that? Seth said. He picked me up by my ankles and dropped me in the trash. That's not just bullying, that's abuse. Plain and simple. And sadly, this wasn't some isolated meltdown. On an episode of Watch What Happens Live, SNL legends Jane Curtin and Lorraine Newman spilled even more tea. They recalled a backstage incident from 1978 between Chevy Chase and, you guessed it, Bill Murray. Chevy had just returned to SNL as a guest host, and apparently, some cast members were still salty about him leaving the show. But Bill? He took it way too far and decided to teach Chevy a lesson by getting into a physical fight with him backstage. So yeah. Seems like Bill just can't resist starting fights behind the scenes. And guess what? We've got another disturbing allegation coming up. This time from the set of an older film, What About Bob? You have to hear what this next report uncovered. So what was Bill even thinking? One quote from the set still haunts people. "Everyone hates you. You are tolerated." Can you imagine hearing that at work? Or worse, having an ashtray thrown at you? Absolute madness! I honestly don't know what fame did to Bill Murray, what got into his head, or what sauce he was sipping on that made him think he was untouchable and could treat people however he wanted. But whatever it was, it sure didn't age well. And let's be real, this is not the kind of legacy anyone would want to leave behind. I mean, could you imagine reaching his age and people still dragging you for decades of bad behavior? It's embarrassing. That whole stunt on Watch What Happens Live alone. Unforgivable. There's just no excuse for it. But now, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Bill's finally facing the consequences he's dodged for years? Or is Hollywood still too quick to protect its own? Hit that follow if you want more deep dives into the wild side of the celebrity world. And if there's a scandal you want me to expose next, let me know in the comments. Stay tuned, because this isn't the last Hollywood mess we're uncovering.